Today on Tales of Collecting, we talk about collecting as a completionist. Hello and welcome back to the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Jim.
I'm Bob.
And today we're going to go over, just general topics of collecting as a completionist and what that means and, my perspective on video games, Bobby's perspective on, some games and figures and collectibles and stuff as well. And just really what it means to, be a completionist when collecting, if I can speak. So, to go over just some of the stuff that we have here on the table today, this is going to be kind of some examples of, different methods of collecting as a completionist. Now, the one I don't have here, and Bobby wouldn't have either, is an entire collection of something. So, like, say, for example, collecting the entire NES library.
Yeah.
That would be a very hard thing to display, and plus it'd be a very hard thing to do because there are just some games out there that are just impossible to purchase just because unless you are mortgaging your house to do it, it's not going to happen. But there are some smaller subsets of that. So, like, one is for Nintendo, for the NES collection, is doing all officially licensed games, not doing the World Championship editions, not doing the one-off thing, or like the weird ones, like the Action 52, which was 52 games in one, which not a single one of them was worth anything.
Huh.
And different things like that, just like I said, kind of the weird ones. And it's possible to have complete collections. I mean, like I mentioned in our podcast, depending on when this comes out, collected for the Virtual Boy, there's only 21 games. So, or either 21 or 22. So being able to collect that entire collection is actually feasible. And even financially, it's not terrible. I mean, don't get me wrong, you would probably spend a couple thousand to get it all. But, that's, and the same thing with miniatures and stuff like that. Now, I think miniatures have more capability of that because, certain games only came out with, but say, like, for example, HeroClix. You can be a completionist of a set.
Yeah.
But being a completionist of the entirety of it, no way. I don't think you'd be able to find all the pieces to do it.
If you've been collecting since the beginning, I would say you stand a much better chance. Because unlike some of the things I'm going to talk about, really, there's only really like convention exclusives. There's not really like you have to have won this tournament to own this figure kind of stuff. To the best of my knowledge, there's not, unless there was some stupid business with the purple rings that I'm not going to go into. But if you play HeroClix, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, a lot of those is a matter of just buying either the boosters or just buying the whole sets off eBay, but it's all out there. But if you haven't been collecting since the beginning, the game's been going for 20 years with a minor speed bump in there. That would probably be an undertaking at this point to get all the older figures.
And the bad thing about the older figures is if you're planning on playing the game, I mean, they do have those legacy cards, but that's only for a very select few figures.
Yeah, their use in the game is quite limited. It would just be for bragging rights to have all the pieces.
So instead, as especially for like me as a video game collector, the things that I usually like to focus on a little bit more is collecting, things like a complete series. So the series that I have up on the front here is my Mega Man collection. Now, if any of you are keen in looking at that, you would notice that I only have 5 games there, and there's 6 in total. And unfortunately, the one that I'm missing is the one that's the most valuable, and that is Mega Man 5. So I've got the terrible cover art Mega Man 1, the most popular Mega Man 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I thought folks, I didn't take a very good look. I thought it was 1 through 5 because I thought 6 was on the Super Nintendo or something.
Nope, that's 1 through 6, but I'm missing 5. I plan on picking it up, but these were where I was piecemealing it, buying each one at a time. I think the first one I owned was Mega Man 2 because that's when I grew up playing the most. So got that. And for me, collecting anything in a series like that, usually I like them to have some significant value to me. There are some exceptions. Again, I was never much of a double dragon, but I have all three double dragons. Same thing with I think it's three. I could be wrong. I have all three Ninja Gaiden too.
Yeah.
Again, I like Ninja Gaiden, the first one. The other two are too hard for me to actually play. Like I can even beat the first one, let alone the second and third one, which are even harder. And same like with the Castlevania series. I've got all three of those. Um, so so you've got the series there now. With what Bobby brought here, again, kind of hard to fit a series of all of the Legos or all of the figures and different
Yeah,
things in
when we
there.
get around to the Lego, I'm going to actually have a little bit of a philosophical take on that. This is just purely an example. I just want to say one thing though. I believe two is actually the more fondly remembered one overall of the first because
Yes,
it's the one that like sets the pace for the rest of the series as far as the number of villains and stage construction and things like that.
exactly. And then some of the later series actually added stuff like the dad or the no the slide that you can
Yeah.
do. So you can they added a few additional power ups and a few additional abilities that Mega Man can do. So
I was more a fan of the X series myself, and I don't know anymore, but I know X3 used to be like ludicrously
it,
expensive.
it, it is. That's why I haven't owned it yet. I've got X and X2, but I don't have X3. So
Yeah, I've only ever seen a physical copy once. Now I've been looking for one, but that was at a video game store in Jasper. It's Couch Potato Games or something like that. Way back when, and they had it for rent. And that's like the only time I ever saw a physical copy.
so and again, so that's one option, and the one that I like. And so if you've been watching my unboxing old stuff series, that's another thing that is a completionist thing is being able to actually get things complete in the box. So, for example, here I have my Nintendo NES copy of The Immortal. Not a game that I could have any memories of playing, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a dungeon crawler game, but I mean, this is another form of completionist. Is that people in their collection, they may not have all of the games, but everything they have is complete in the box, and that's a whole other thing. I know with the the resale market, this is what people are looking for. They're looking for box copies, rated copies, or
Yeah.
graded, I should say. Um, but again, that's another form of completion. Again, that's within the realm of things that people can do because not every game in the box is going to be worth $100. You'd be surprised how many are only worth like $20 or $30. Complete with the box, the manual, in the game. And it's surprising because these cardboard boxes are hard to find because people threw them away. They're flimsy. They're not meant to last. And Nintendo was always notorious about that. So one suggestion is if you're looking at being collecting things in the box, Sega Genesis is probably your best bet because Sega Genesis came out with the rugged plastic case.
Mm.
So it had a nice place to store the manual, the cartridge, and none of this cardboard insert stuff.
Well, I mean, they used to be a trading card company.
I know. Yeah. Playing cards.
Yeah, playing cards.
Yep. So the third one, which I don't have displayed here, but I'll show here, is what they call variants. So, for example, here I've got the Legend of Zelda for the NES as well, and there's two variants. So the original one came in the gold cartridge. Make sure I don't. I just realized I was blinding the camera with the light there. But the gold cartridge, and then later down the run,
Little J.J. Abrams lens flare.
they did the gray cartridge here, and notice on the video game price charts they finally have it now where they actually price both of them individually because some people want to have both variants of this. Another one that I don't quite understand, but is on the back. Now on the back of this one, there's only three screws. Some of the games they'll have what they call a three-screw variant and a five-screw variant,
Hmm.
and the five-screw variants are usually actually worth more than the three-screw. And I believe that may have something to do with the fact that some of them are Famicom games with an adapter put into them to play into the NES.
Okay.
And one, one
And for the folks who don't know, tell them what the Famicom is, just briefly.
the Famicom is the Japanese version of the Nintendo Entertainment System. So it was the Japanese or it was the Nintendo Family Computer or Famicom. And then if we ever talk about the Super Famicom, that's the Super Nintendo version of that. But I know of some people that will actually buy a copy of Gyromite, pull out the adapter, because Gyromite, almost every single copy is got the Famicom adapter in
Okay.
it, and they will pull that out and actually use that to play Famicom games on their Nintendo. So,
So they kind of use it like have it like how you would use the Game Genie almost.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
So between those two, which is the harder to find? Or are they roughly equal? Or
I'd say the price is about the exact same. The gray one usually goes for a little bit more, but at the same time, it was just because it was later in the run. Towards the end of the life of the NES, that's what they did instead of printing the more expensive gold cartridge. So,
yeah,
I mean, obviously, to me, I think as a collector, I think the gold cartridge looks a lot better on your shelf, but it's still kind of cool to have the variant there. So, and you've got an example of collecting some variants there.
yeah. Well, very briefly, this is actually a variant itself. Of the normal one is a yellow truck. I didn't buy it. Uh, but this one is the same exact construction, just different colors and the stickers to make it a Toys R Us truck. This was only sold at Toys R Us. Now, it wasn't hard to find at the time. You just had to go to a Toys R Us or order it online. But now, thanks to time and the fact there is no more Toys R Us, this is definitely the more valuable of the two. And I've never been able to bring myself to actually open the thing up for that very reason. That and I really don't have any place to put it once I build it at the moment. So,
Yeah, well,
but
just wait till Toys R Us comes back, then it won't be worth anything again.
yeah, there we go. So then this is a more, very more recent example. These are GI Joe classified figures. Let me move this out of the way here, so maybe see a little bit better. And this is, hopefully you guys can see this. These are both Cobra officers. Now, this one is the regular printing. The figure's got the blue uniform like you would expect from the comics and everything. This is the Python Patrol version. The Python Patrol, back in the original line, was a way for them to reuse existing molds to re-release like the generic Cobra Soldiers, Officers, Vipers, and Crimson Guards that hadn't been in print for a couple of years, but people still wanted because they're what populates the cartoon and the comics. Well, now they do the same thing. It's again to get mileage out of the molds, but also the Python Patrol ones are only at Target. They're not going to. They don't find them at Walmart. Although some have found their way onto Walmart.com somehow. Third party seller, I assume. But not entirely like that. But these are actually considered different figures entirely because they have numbers on them. This is figure number 37 and figure number 56. Even though one is literally just a repaint of the other, it is considered a separate figure entirely. And if it were exclusive any place but Target, this one probably would have actually been kind of hard to get. But Target, that's a whole other video on their distribution, and trust me, there's one coming because of some Marvel Legends stuff. But yeah, so these are like what you run into with modern things, and there's even a couple figures. The Cobra Bat now has 4 different versions in this line, and this line is not that old, but you
So,
know
so do they do series in those as well, or is that just like an ongoing?
the numbering
Yeah.
the numbering is ongoing. It's every single figure they've released, and I'm going to talk about this one here a little bit later. But this is the Doctor Mindbender figure, which was only available at San Diego Comic Con or briefly on the Hasbro website, and it is numbered number 43. Even though it's a way more exclusive than any of these, it's still considered part of the main line. If you want to have all of them, you need the figures like this. And this was one of the cheaper ones. I don't have Serpentor. Serpentor cost $80. That was new. Now Serpentor costs like $200.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that in any type of collecting, trying to be a completionist, is that just like I said, my copy of Mega Man 5 that I don't have, it is the most valuable out of all of them. Um, and I believe the reason why is that really they probably should have never made 6. Not that it was a bad selling game. It's just that
Sleeve entirely.
do what?
Oh, the sleeve came off entirely. I would have been able to show the number a little bit better. But anyway, continue.
Um,
Sorry.
but I think 5 was where it kind of topped out in the line, and then 6 was just kind of the last hurrah, and really didn't sell as well as the other ones. But that happens. But no, I mean that's the one thing with trying to be a completionist on things is that there's always going to be that item out there that to finish the collection or whatever that you want to get that you want to have in there, and it's just going to be just astronomical and expensive, and it's not going to be something you're just going to go, you know what, I'm going to spend $400 or $500 to get this just so you're like, no, no, you're going to have to take your time, look on like Facebook Marketplace, eBay, and then just find one where that somebody's just trying to get rid of something or it's thrown into a lot of things or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I know I've got a few things collection wise that way where that I got a better price on it. Now don't get me wrong, I still spent more on it, but because I got an entire
Other
other
stuff.
stuff, I
Yeah.
was able to sell the other stuff, and recoup some of the cost in that as
Yeah.
well.
There's a gentleman on the main website I go to for D&D and Pathfinder miniatures. That's what he does, and he seems to be doing a good job. Kind of to Jim's point, this is an exclusive from Gen Con this year and one other convention. This is a miniature for Dungeons and Dragons of 3 kobolds in a trench coat. This thing was ludicrously hard to find even at the convention. These sold out within minutes each day. This thing is worth more than everything else I'm going to show you in this video. This tiny little thing is worth like $150. It's ridiculous. Cost $10 at retail. I've owned it for 2 months. That's what it's worth. 15 times what I paid for it. Ridiculous.
See, I should have looked up what my game is there. So go ahead and talk. I'm going to pull up my. I just want to see what the current price of, say, like the box copy of the Immortal is.
All right, so I'm going to go a little more philosophical here and ask the question: what does it actually mean to be a completionist? And Jim Jim touched on it a lot with the video games. Does it mean owning every single Nintendo game? Does it mean owning all of them except for the championship games he mentioned, and variants like the two different, like these, like for Lego? I don't even know what you would consider a completionist for Lego. What does it mean? Do you own all of a sub theme, the whole theme? Do you own every set going back to like 1978 or so, whenever they started with the current blocks? I mean, I've seen one guy's collection on video that apparently I think does own everything going back to that, but he's like one guy. No, no, I don't even know if they have those sets complete in Billund in Denmark. And like, here's a perfect example. Like, these aren't even part of a wave or anything. These were exclusives. I don't know, 10 years ago probably.
I think they said 2011 on them.
Do they?
On the front. There's a sticker.
Yeah, yeah, 2011, 12 years ago. These were available. One came out Black Friday. You had to spend so much, and you got this for free. And the other came out like 2 weeks later. Same deal. Which also means one of these is produced way more than the other, and I don't remember which one's which on that front. Because every time they do something like that, because they do it about every year, one of the two ends up being worth more because they make way more of them, or they give out more of them, or something. But anyway, like, I don't even know where these fall in completionist, because they're not part of a wave. Are they just a set unto themselves because they don't connect to anything else? Are they part of just overall the Christmas stuff, which again is that all the Christmas stuff going back into the 80s, like including the Lego ornaments? I mean,
It could be part of the Christmas exclusive set. You could say that you were wanting to collect all of that, and that's where it kind of runs into, like I said in the very beginning, that what are you considering to be a completionist thing? So unless you're just, unless you're Bill Gates and you just have infinite money to throw at things, I would recommend highly that you find a subset of collecting that you can manage. Like I said, something as simple as a series, something as simple as a game and complete in box. And by the way, this one was right now is listed at $46 complete in box.
yeah,
Not a lot of money. Now, uh, there is a third option though too. It's new in box. I have a very very few select games that are new in box. I have the Combat Tribes for the Super Nintendo and it's sealed. For PC, I have a Rebel Assault, Star Wars Rebel Assault. I have Space Simulator by Microsoft sealed, and Blue Max, which is a flying like a biplane flying game for PC sealed. Um, I may have another one or another two in there, but it's very, very few because, again, who buys a game and just leaves it sealed?
yeah.
Uh, I mean, I can see it happening. Like, you know, parent buys it for their kid for Christmas. Their kid's like, I don't want this. And,
Yeah,
and it goes in the closet. And
I had something like that. This was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I came across it. Do you remember Battle Beasts? Little figures about like this had a hologram on their chest
yep,
of fire, wood, or water.
yep.
All right, so anyway, I'm not going to go into all that, but they had like vehicles for them also. And I guess my grandma had bought one with the intention of giving it to me for Christmas. Never did. Sat in her closet for, I don't know, 15 years, give or take. Then she finds it one day and she's like, "What's this?" Like, "Hey, I know what that is." And told her, and she's like, "Well, here you go." Well, I was like, "All right." So, of course, naturally, I opened it up and put it together.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. Well, that's like
Yeah, yeah. I
well,
mean, that didn't really hurt the value. I sold it a couple of years ago because it was complete, but apparently there's a market for the Battle Beasts.
no, there's a there's a like I say there's a battle for everything. No, there's a market for everything out there. Yeah, I always find it amazing to see what people are just willing to pay for, willing to buy, um, and different things like that. I got lucky with my some of my complete in box games because I bought them probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago. One was my Super Castlevania 4. It's complete in the box. My copy of Super Metroid complete in the box. Um, what else did I get before they would have scattered? Well, hell, my Philips CDI collection. I bought my Philips CDI and almost 70 games for it for $70. And I can tell you right now, one of those games is Zelda: The Wand of Gamelon, so it is worth some money. And I also got Hotel Mario, but not just Hotel Mario, but the not for resale Hotel Mario,
Hmm.
which I have quite a few not for resale games. So somebody must have ran a store or whatever and had all of those. And again, hey, there's another market collecting things that weren't for resale. They weren't meant to be. Actually, kind of mentioned this in the podcast where people were talking about buying prototypes of toys and stuff. Yet
Yeah.
another way of collecting, another way of being a completionist. If you're a diehard this toy company, whatever, oh, not just buy the toys, buy the prototypes of those toys.
I
Come on,
know.
what are you waiting for? Do it.
In that vein, I know people have acquired the store displays that Lego used to make, and they stopped making them for that very reason because people were buying them, and or they're figuring out like some Toys R Us's would sell them, and others would be like, "Well, we can't sell them to you, but we throw the trash out on Wednesday, if you know what I mean." And those for whatever it's worth are really only worth it for display because they're glued together. Like you can't take the bricks apart. So that's the only purpose for them.
Well, and I kick myself every day, well, not every day, but for not doing this at one point. When they
Every
were
third day.
when they were remodeling the McDonald's in Jasper, they had a N64 unit in there. They had the 4-player N64 display, and I went in there and asked them about it, and they said, well, we just had another guy that come in and ask about it, and we gave it to him. And I'm just like, that would have been awesome. I would have had that like with the like the McFry kids or whatever the figures on it. But yeah, it had where you could play 4 N64s, or I think maybe it was 2 N64s that were like 2 players on 2 of the screens,
Yeah.
or 4 of the screens, whatever it was. I don't know exactly how they did, but anyways, yeah, buying store displays. Yet another completionist thing. You were talking about the Nintendo display where you could demo X amount of games. People have those display things. So yes, collecting things that were never meant to be sold, kind of things. Yet another line of being a completionist. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
then I say kind of in that vein, I do have one other item here. And this falls again into the like how do you rate yourself a completionist? Like for BattleTech, there are factions. Like, are you do you have everything for your faction? If you don't have the Kickstarter exclusive flag, like the one here for House Lao here, for instance, do you consider your collection complete? Is this part of it? Is this only part of it if you bought the? Are you only concerned if you bought the video game on Kickstarter, which is hey, what you had to do to get these? Like does the fact you don't have the T-shirt, for instance, does that complicate things? Or the hat, or like this year at Gen Con they released Steins with the with the faction symbols on them. Like, do you have everything for your faction if you don't have that? Where does it end with the thing that doesn't have clearly defined borders?
And I think the real answer is it's whatever you want it to be. The,
Yeah,
the thing is, there is no right answer. There is no, you've got to collect this way, you've got to collect that way. Um, the biggest thing I take away from it is you need to collect within your means. You should not be going hungry to go collect things. You should not be missing your house payment or rent or whatever to go collect things. Uh, the things that I've been collecting, once I can ever show my entire collection, I've been collecting for over a decade. Um, I started collecting actually at a very good time because I was collecting when the market was down. Um, again, my seal or my box copy of Super Castlevania, I only spent like $30 or $40 on
yeah,
it, and it's worth like three times that. So,
yeah. Well, Jim, if I may, just very briefly, kind of touch on that, but the opposite direction,
all right,
because I was kind of thinking about this, and this is a thought that's occurred to me before. Because I've talked with other people like, well, what if I did have a mountain like Scrooge McDuck level money that I could just swim in, kind of thing? Would I honestly still be interested in some of these things? And from a collecting standpoint, the answer is no, because there's no challenge at all in getting them at that point with that level of wealth. That's literally like, do I want it? Yes. Is it less than however much money I have over here in the pile? Okay, then I can buy it. And I think collecting, I think at a certain point, collecting can morph into other things. Uh, and I see that like with Chris. He buys a lot of things that are truly unique. And I know that we're kind of veering off of the collect the full sets and everything
yeah,
here, but like just bear with me for a moment. And I see that, and I have a few things like that myself. Like I have a well, we went to Comic Con last year, and he knew the gentleman that plays Flash Gordon in the '80s movie was going to be there. And he came across my friend Chris came across a record of the soundtrack, an album, a vinyl album. So he bought it and gave it to me, and I got it signed and everything by the gentleman that plays Flash Gordon. Like how many of those are out there? I'm going to guess one. You know, I'm going to guess there's just no. I'm going to guess there's probably not a whole hell of a lot of others out there. I mean, there might be a couple because Chris got it signed for me, and I guess whenever he signed it, like he did say, "Man, this record's actually in pretty good condition." So like maybe he has seen a few of them, but I doubt it. And I've got some comics that I had signed by George Perez, who has unfortunately passed away now. So there won't be any more comics signed by George Perez. And the four in particular I have were one four-issue story arc from his Avengers run. And like, did anyone else get those signed? It's going to be a very low number of people, and
yeah.
mine are signed and graded. So
Heck, there's another market right there. Getting signature collections, and the one that comes to mind to me is like, say, from a television show, getting the entire cast to sign
yeah,
some. That's a complete thing. I think with a lot of the conventions we go to, one of the easier ones probably to get a complete set of signatures for would be the Power Rangers. A lot of the Power Rangers will show up at different conventions. I think, at least the ones that I've been to, I think I've seen almost the entirety of the original series, and that included,
I was gonna say I think there's two you can't get anymore,
yeah, well,
right?
but I had been at conventions where they had been at.
Yeah,
But yeah, right there, there's another form of being able to complete something, and again, something within reason, because a lot of these people, they visit the conventions, they're not doing anything anymore, they're not acting, actively. I mean, I'm sure they're doing stuff, but they're not acting anymore. So a little easier to do. But then again, for some of the franchises, it's going to start getting harder to find those things.
yeah.
Like,
Like both of us have pictures with Shatner,
yep,
and like I don't know who else.
we had at least I didn't do it at the time, and I should have, but I could have got one when Peter Mayhew was down in Evansville.
Well, I did get his signature for Chris's son Charlie. I didn't get a picture though. But yeah, no, like for Star Trek, like uh, Chekhov, I know he's still alive.
Walter Koenig.
Yeah, he he might be the only other main member of the crew now that I really think about it.
We got George Takai.
Yeah, George Takai, right? George Takai.
The well, that and I've seen at the some of the more recent conventions, Tim Curry, and I said he's not looking so.
No, he had a stroke or something a few years ago.
And
He's not looking good.
and that's another one. But anyways, we're kind of getting off topic on that.
Yeah, and we're trying to stay focused. So
So, but anyways, I say with as far as the collecting front on the video game side, I mean, I think I've covered most of uh, the major ones. Oh, there's one more, and that is besides actually collecting the games, the other one is
the
collect
systems.
the systems themselves. Now, I have almost all the mainline systems. Now, I'm sure people in the comments will be asking, "Oh, do you have this?" And I'll be like, "Oh, probably not." But like during my Sega Genesis Model 3, I showed I had all three versions of the Sega Genesis. I had the 32X and the Sega CD attachment. I have both Super Nintendos. I have at least, well, I have two of the Nintendos in the box, which were the same model, but just different sets. And I have the top loader NES, just going on and on and on. The only two that I think that are the main line ones that I do not have, and these are just game consoles. I'm not going to talk computers like the Commodore 64 or anything like that. Is I do not have right now a Neo Geo or an Atari Jaguar or the Jaguar CD in that for that example, or the Neo Geo CD. Hell, there's four of them right there, but they're all extensions of themselves. But
And I suppose you could go even farther. Accessories,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I love weird controllers. I mean, I've got the Steel Battalion controller, and that's I don't have
like the regular Nintendo 64 controller, or do you mean like weird in a good way?
Oh no, yeah, weird in a good way. Like giant controllers, weird one-off controllers, arcade sticks. Like I said, my Steel Battalion controller, different things like that. Hell yeah, there's accessories you can collect too. But again, some of those consoles, the reason I don't have the Neo Geo or the Atari Jaguar is because last time I went down to look for an Atari Jaguar, they had it listed for $400. For a console I have zero memory of playing, barely remember the commercials, because the only thing I remember about the commercials is they always talked about the Genesis and the Super Nintendo were just kids' toys compared to the Atari Jaguar, when the Atari Jaguar actually had worse games for the most part.
I was gonna say this from the game coming ahead. What is it? Bonk? That Jaguar?
No, that's the
Ah, the
TurboGrafx.
TurboGrafx 16. Sorry.
Yeah, Justin had one of those.
Yeah, yeah. I played Bonk. That's about it.
Yeah, but anyways, like I say, as far as the video game front or gaming front, at least on the video game side, those are the things that I look at when I'm thinking about completing sets. And for me, yeah, I'd like to have every video game made by, for the NES, but that's not probably going to happen. But what I like to do is I want to get things that mean something to me or that are in really good shape that I can preserve for, generations to come at some point. At some point, I will give this collection to my kids and they will have it and probably sell it and make buku bucks out of it.
Well,
Now,
hopefully, as far as if they do sell it, hopefully they do make a lot of money.
yeah, I sure hope so because, I mean, hell, even 5, 6 years ago when I had it priced, it was over 15 grand. So,
There you
and
go.
it's done nothing but gone up from there. Though I've seen the prices kind of fluctuate down a little bit recently. So, anyways, do you have any closing thoughts on Legos and
Uh,
action figures?
yeah. I
And
mean, like Jim was saying, like as far as like Lego in particular, like don't eat like unless you're Bill Gates, like which I don't know why you'd be watching a channel given how much I smack talked in another video, but maybe. Uh, there is no completing it. Okay, pick some themes, some sub themes. Buy what you want. I would I would advise you to actually build them, but if different strokes for different folks. Then like the GI Joe figures, they're the other situation you kind of run into is like the named characters also have variants like that. Like, is your collection complete if you just have one version of Cobra Commander? Or do you also have the other one that's worth ludicrous amounts of money that people are turning to buying knockoffs on AliExpress? And even there, does that complete your collection if the figure's basically the same or not? Like, do you consider, like, do you know that that's a knockoff that just like eat away at the back of your mind? Like, I wish I had the real one, damn it, but I don't. Little things like that, but just stick with what you want. You will define what complete means, not someone else. Because there's always going to be that one other thing out there somewhere. Like Jim's talking about the Mega Man games here. Someone's going to come along and be like, well, what about like Mega Man Soccer, or like the PC Mega Man game, or something. There's always some other thing out there.
or even a better one. Well, why don't you have the Japanese version of Rockman, um, which makes more sense why his sister's name is Roll
Yes, rock and roll.
because it's rock and roll. But I don't know. I like Mega Man actually better than Rockman.
But yeah, you got things like that. You got like with Lego, there are sets that you had to have flown on an airline within a certain set of years to get them. Like that's ludicrous.
Or you would have to visit the
Or
Lego.
you'd have to have gone to the Lego factory in Billund to check things out to get these sets. That's how exclusive they are. Like 99% of the people out there, you're never going to have those. Now, if you do have them, that's awesome.
And hold on to them.
Yeah, I'm hold on to them. But like, no, like these companies, especially current stuff, they will make other comparable things. Like I mentioned, the three kobolds in a trench coat. There's already a figure coming out. One of the next sets, it's a bunch of cranium rats in a trench coat. That's not from an adventure, to the best of my knowledge. That's a hey, things in a trench coat sell. So there's another chance to get something like that.
Well, I was going to say it sounds like an adventure to me.
Oh, yeah. I'm more interested in the other figure in the picture, the Modron that's turned into a slot machine somehow. But anyway, yeah, that just stay with what you can get. You know, maybe get your one or two items that are like the crown jewel of the collection. Like I don't have like the crown jewel of my Star Wars collection isn't here. It's going to be in its own video. It's a figure that's worth ludicrous amounts of money that I got for like $30, like
Yeah.
in the '90s, because Star Wars wasn't as popular in the '90s, but it is now, kind of, till Disney kills it again.
Oh, yeah, see our podcast for that.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, but yeah, that's my spiel on things. So.
all right. Well, we definitely want to hear your comments about your adventures in collecting, especially trying to be a completionist. What do you try to do to complete your collections? What do you think about some of the stuff that we showed here today? Definitely, let us know that down in the comments below. And definitely if you like what you're hearing here and you like this series, definitely give us the like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff.
One other brief thought, Jim. Very brief. Would you consider your collection more complete if you've actually beaten all the games?
I'm on 3 right now. I've never. The funny thing is that up to 3 is where I played actually.
Yeah.
As a kid. I mean, I played the first game, the second one, third one. Honestly, I don't even remember them seeing the fourth, fifth, and sixth to rent.
I remember playing the fourth one. It was definitely an option because I played it here.
And if that was the case, it may have been about the time that I've had already moved on to Super Nintendo at that point. So,
Just
but
just as you were talking, to just the whole like the with the video games in particular, just clicked like how modern video games have achievements and everything. And I was just thinking like, well, that's like a whole other branch of completionism right there too.
yeah,
You
this is
know?
like it's like getting the rare card in Magic the Gathering and actually playing the card.
Yeah.
Um, which I know a lot of people in that example would use a proxy to not
Yeah. Not
not
damage their card.
not damage their card.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's a whole other debate that we can have. We should do on the podcast. That was
Yeah.
proxies. But anyways, like I said, let us know down in the comments below, and hopefully, you learn something from this, or at least have different thoughts on it. And you know, we'd like I said, hear what your thoughts are. And yeah, that's all
Yeah.
that I got.
Don't forget, got to catch them all.
What are we catching?
I know. We're talking about collecting collections, like
There we go. See ya.